Okay, guys, so we have this diagram. You drew it. We also got this handout. Imaginary numbers, we don't really need to know right now. This is more Algebra 2 stuff, future math classes. And it's just simple. When you take the square root of 9, you get a 3. But when you take the square root of -9, you get an imaginary number. So I just put this on here so you could have it in your notes. But we're not going to be quizzed on this stuff, right? We're just going to be quizzed on real numbers. And I'll tell you this right now, guys. The first part of the quiz, we're going to have a quiz on Friday. The first part of the quiz is this diagram, and you got to fill in what these are. Oh, these are rational numbers. These are integers. These are whole numbers. These are natural numbers. These are irrational. All the examples will be there, and even this diagram will be there. All you have to do is fill in the blank, okay? That's going to be the first part of the quiz. Super easy. All you got to do is practice, study it. And you could also follow that storyline naturally. You learn how to count 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you learned about the number 0, the number with the biggest hole in it. That's why these are whole numbers. Then you learned about positive and negative numbers. Those are called integers. And then you finally realize that not all numbers are nice, like 1, 2, 3, 4 or negative 1, 2, 3, 4. They're sometimes decimals, they're sometimes fractions, okay? So those are rational numbers. Let's move on to number lines down here. We're also going to have to be able to determine which numbers are greater than other numbers, right? Which one's greater, which one's less. And if you use a number line, it's pretty easy because anything that's further left is less than, and anything that's further right is greater than. That's right. I said right instead of right, okay? To help you out, right? Right is greater, less, left is less. Left, less, greater, right. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Let's say I'm comparing the -4 with the -2. Which one's greater, -4 or -2? The -2 is greater, the one that's further to the right, right? The one that's further to the left is less. So you're going to say -4 is less than -2. Or you could say that -2 is greater than -4. And we're going to have to use that trick to be able to put numbers in order also on Friday's quiz, okay? We're also need to be able to use the correct inequalities. And right here, the copy didn't come out too well, but you do have like a little Pac-Man here. Whoops, that's ugly. But anyways, those Pac-Mans or alligators or whatever your 5th grade teacher told you to use, that monster is hungry, right? And it always wants to eat the greater value. Remember, greater's to the right. So if you're comparing the 5 and the -2, the 5 and the -2, which one's greater? The 5. So this guy's hungry. That's why it wants to eat the 5, because the 5 is greater. It's always going to open up to the greater value. Okay, when you compare -10 and -9, well, on the number line, -10 is further to the left, and -9 is further to the right, which means that this guy's greater, and that's why it wants to eat the -9, because the -9 is greater. I hope you guys already know this, but if you don't know it already, hopefully this helps. Okay? So if we're comparing -22 and -28, which one's greater? The -22, so it has to open up to the -22, right? How about if I'm comparing 0.85 and 0.79? Which one's greater? 0.85 is greater, right? So think about it. When you're looking at decimals, I always like to think of money, right? What is this really? It's like 85 cents. The other one's like 79 cents. Obviously, 85 is greater than 79, so it's going to open up. See how it's opening up to the 85? Now, if you have 0.85 compared to 0.851, which one's greater? 0.851, okay? And right there, you have to go through decimal values. The tenths place is 8. This one's 8. So far, they're equal. The next number in the hundredths is 5. The next one's 5. So far, they're equal. Right here, there is no number, so technically there's a 0. And right here, there's a 1. So which one's greater, the 0 or the 1? The 1 is greater. So in the thousandths place. So that's why it's opening up to this guy. This guy's the greater value. Okay? So we're going to have more practice on this. I just wanted to give you a little taste right there of how to determine which one's greater and less. We might as well compare some fractions here. Which one's greater? The hold on one second. The 1/10 or the 1/100th? Which one's greater, 1/10 or 1/100th? 1/10, right? Always, I like thinking of it visually. The bottom number tells you how many pieces to chop it up into. The top number tells you how many pieces to shade in, right? So if you have two equal tanks or chocolate bars or whatever you want to call it, there's one, there's another. Wow, that's ugly, sorry. And if I were to chop this one up into 10 pieces, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, there's 10 pieces. And if I were to, if I want to represent the 1 out of the 10, I'm going to shade in this first 1 piece out of the 10 pieces, right? So that's 1/10 of a tank of gas, right? Now, if I want to represent 1/100th, okay, how many pieces am I going to chop it up into? 100. Okay, so let me do this. You chop it up into 100 pieces. There's 1. 2. 3. I should probably stop, right? I want to keep going. 4. 5. Okay, this is ridiculous. But you guys understand what I'm saying, right? So if I were to fill in 1 out of these 100, you're talking about just this like, let me see. This tiny piece right here, just that's 1/100th right there. That's nothing, right? So it's clearly obvious that 1/10 is greater than 1/100th. Cool? Okay, with that like mentality or that like concept, how about 9/10 compared to 99/100ths? Then, which one would be greater? The 99/100ths, okay? Let's take a look at this guy, 9/10. Let's fill out 9. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It goes all the way to here, and that is 9/10. Okay, now if you were to have chopped this up into 100 pieces, and you go all the way to the 99th piece, that would be way, way up here, like a hair from being completely full. So the 99/100ths is definitely greater than 9/10. 99/100ths is greater than 9/10. So I'm reviewing this. I'm making a video on it because all this stuff is going to pop out on your first quiz. Okay? Let's look back at the paper. Going back to the worksheet, and just to mention, you could quickly, if you have a calculator, it's really easy to convert a fraction to a decimal because a fraction is simply a division problem. Okay? So let's say you did have 7/8, okay? With the calculator, you could just go 7 divided by 8, hit equal, convert that to a decimal by dividing it, and you'll get the 0.875, okay? On the back side of your worksheet, what would be nice for you to practice on is this first piece right here, the classifying the following real numbers. And you have the chart itself, so it should be pretty easy. What do you guys think of number 1? If you want to classify 2.75 and you want to be as specific as possible, what would you say 2.75 is? Rational, correct? Rational, okay. How about number 8? That one might trick some people. Is that irrational? No, it's natural. Why? Because the square root of 9 is 3, and 3 is natural. Okay? So we could work on that for the rest of the class, for homework.
Is it a whole or is it a metric?
That's a good question. Number 2, 3. The number 3.
Metric.
Natural, right? Now, what's the difference between a whole number and a natural number, or a natural number and a whole number? The number 0, right? And this is definitely not the number 0, so you're just going to call this a natural number. Number 3, some people get confused with number 3 because of that negative sign. They think it's what? They think it's an integer, but what is it really? It's rational. That's right. Because it's a decimal. It's a ratio. It could be written as a fraction. It could be written as negative half. So you guys could work on that. And I wouldn't go any further. Maybe do a couple of these guys where we're comparing with the less than, the equal to, or the greater than. But stop right there. Only do the first 2 sections, and we'll pick this up tomorrow in class.